Kristie, will you share, we have 350-ish people watching right now, so I'd love for you to kind of share with everybody and give them a little bit of your background. Tell them about Kristie Smith.
All right, Kristie Smith. I'm here hailing from Indianapolis, Indiana. Run the Indie Homes team. IndieHomes.com is our website. And we have a small team, yet mighty business. So we have simply 3 active agents on our team, and we did 50 million in business this year. Our average is a little above average for Indianapolis. So our average this year is probably trending closer to 500. Last year we closed out at 430 as an average sale price. And for our market, I know some of you listening from around the country, that's entry level. For Indianapolis, where our average house price is under 200,000, we're definitely a luxury team here in central Indiana.
That's so incredible. I wish that we had time for you to tell like your whole story, because I just think you have one of the best stories from your neighborhood, your dominate neighborhood plans that I've ripped off and duplicated myself numerous times. But they're so incredible. The one thing, Kristie, that I'd love for you to talk about today is standing out from the competition, tactic number 8 in the shift book, with seller staging strategies. You've been on stage at numerous conventions sharing a unique tool that you kind of created. I think, I don't know, maybe you R&D'd it from somebody, but I just give you all the claim to fame on it. So talk to us a little bit about that and how you stand out from the competition.
Thanks. Well, it's really hard to follow the amazing Peter. And, you know, Peter, you're right. Price certainly matters. But I'm here to show maybe a little different perspective about how to actually create a listing that would sell for far more for your clients. You see, the idea of the price strategy, well, let's just say you even dropped your price $100,000. Okay, some of our markets, we sell houses that are $100,000. If you lowered your price by $100,000, with the interest rates that we had last week, that's only $280 a month for a seller. So if you drop the price, let's say $50,000, that's $140 a month. And many people, when they determine their affordability of their houses, it's based on what is my payment going to be. So right. These type of huge drops for sellers, you know, aren't really the decision. What I find isn't the decision-making factor for the actual buyers. Yeah. Actual buyers, the way that they make their decision is like everyone else. So I have some foundational assumptions that are going to be a little contrary to what you normally think, but it's important that you embrace these assumptions in our post-COVID market. So number 1, you have to believe that as an agent, it's your responsibility to not only sell homes, but you are the fiduciary to sell these homes at the most favorable net terms and net price for your sellers. Okay, that's your job. It's not just to go get the listing and then sell the listing, even if that means drop the price until it sells. Okay, yep. That is a formula for disaster. And as Peter said, you only sell the house for less money if your strategy is take whatever price the seller wants just to get the listing and then keep dropping. Okay, so the goal is to list correctly out of the gate. Price, in my opinion, is one factor, okay? Because nobody buys anything. Think of the last thing that you purchased. No one buys anything that they do not love, especially if you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, okay? So your job as an agent is to show up as a high-level consultant with the attitude of who's the most likely buyer for this home, and what objections will this buyer or any buyer have to picking your listing over the competition that exists at the exact same time. Because after this COVID-19 calms down, there will be an onslaught of pent-up listings that did not hit the market during this 3, 4, 8-week period because sellers are nervous and waiting, okay? Mm-hmm. So now there is going to be an extra large amount of competition. So how and why is a buyer going to pick your listing and get yours to be sold? It can't just be price, because we know we can swing lots and lots and lots of dollars and throw away dollars from our sellers and that changes the payment very little for the buyer.
Yep.
But what we do know is this, and this is a huge assumption: the woman is the home buying decision maker for the family, and the family typically buys what she wants. And the woman tends to be the emotional decision maker for the family. So what we want to create is a product or our listing or home so that amongst 50, I mean, who knows, you guys could be in markets in the next 4 weeks and you could have 50 to 100 competitors that we haven't seen in a long time because they're all going to hit at one time. How do I get a woman to walk in and go, honey, this is it? And still, when you like something at that level, you pay for it. You pay for quality, you pay for what you love, you pay for unique, something that nobody else has, okay? So if you understand the psyche of the buy, then all we need to do is create products that will sell. And that's how product marketing works for everything that people buy. So It doesn't change with housing. Okay, so I want to give you one example, and everyone knows this kind of example. If you've ever shopped at this 90% off rack at the store, the items that finally get to the 90% off rack are the items that nobody else has wanted. Okay, so let's just use Nordstrom. You buy a Burberry sweater at Nordstrom and it's missing one of the fancy Burberry buttons. Nobody wants to buy this $300 sweater missing the fancy button that you can't even replace.
Yep.
So instead, that sweater sells for $30 to $40 on the clearance rack, when Nordstrom even has an alteration department where they could maybe replace all 6 buttons. Granted, they won't be the fancy buttons, but they can replace them all and at least sell that sweater for $200 without the fancy buttons. So it's the same way with housing. When I go into a house, I say, what are the objections that would stop a female buyer, if it's a type of house that would attract a family or a female buyer, in the buying decision? How do I get an emotional response so that it gets picked, chosen over the competition, and not only that, but then the high price? So that's really what we do. I'm going to talk to you about how I do that, but those are the foundational beliefs that we and our team believe it's our job to do that for our sellers. We're being paid very generously to do that, and we walk in to say, how can I be your strategic consultant and get you the most favorable terms and price? Because not everybody is motivated by money. So some people are motivated by lack of inconvenience, like having workers or painters in their home. Some people are just motivated by time. I want to get to my grandbaby Benjamin in Denver as soon as possible. So really making sure that you lead with consultation, but what's most important to your seller. We find though that most people do care about price. So what we do is we go in and we identify what are the low-hanging fruits that can make the big wow differences. And then we help our clients manage that whole process and get it done. Okay?
Awesome. Yeah, you're doing a great job. Yep. I can't wait for you to get into kind of how you do this.
Okay, so you're going to walk into 3 different kinds of houses as an agent. You're going to walk into the house of like, oh my gosh, I've never seen a house as horrible as this. You know, not only deferred maintenance, but aesthetically horrible, outdated. Ugh. Okay, so that's what I would consider like just the scale way over here. For those houses, typically it is best to do nothing. A lot of times we'll go into those houses and say, why don't we just paint, or why don't we do something? And what I've learned is you can't spend anything because you waste that money for your seller, because there's still so many things that you may have spent even $30,000 and still your feedback is overpriced, or it's outdated, too much work, and they just skip.
Yeah, that's so true, Kristie. Because some
people,
don't you think too, sometimes it's like when you start doing one thing, then you kind of can't stop doing others. So even if you need a total remodel, but you say, hey, let's just go in and paint to freshen up, it almost makes them pick out all the other things even more.
Yeah, so you either need to do a whole house renovation for these houses, and you need to really partner with a contractor or something. But I'll tell you, realtor math is very different than any other math. And this is something that people don't understand. If you have a house and you spend, you know, I'll go in and spend on average on the low end. I mean, I very rarely meet a house that I don't transform in some regard. But that might just be spending you know, I might just say, hey, we should put hardware on these cabinets, and we spend very low money and that's all we do. Okay, so very, very low money all the way to probably in my wheelhouse, we'll manage up to $50,000. But with our wholesale prices and the vendors that we work with, I can get done for $50,000 what a buyer would perceive costs. You know, buyers believe that repairs and improvements cost 3 to 4 times what they really do. And Chip and Joanna Gaines is a lie. Okay, those people in my suburban market do not exist. Okay, most families do not have time, they do not have the skills, and they don't have the money. They're putting their money into their down payment. They're putting their money into activities and events. We are the activity generation. Travel, soccer, cheer, all these things are super expensive. And we are the activity generation. So people want to be spending their time doing activities. A lot of these kids don't get home from school till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night with all these activities. We're not ripping out kitchens and tiling floors ourselves. Any work that a family does usually is hired out by other people, unless you're the rare handyman, which we're seeing in our suburban market is not very common.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is if you have the I need everything house, then you just need to run comps and say, where is the house from the 80s that has not been updated ever? And then what do those prices bring? That is a very, very difficult conversation because most people, when they see sales in their community, they do not have any regard for the swing in price point that changes based on updates and condition. And realtor math says, if I spend $30,000 with the seller, I get 2 things. I don't only get my $30,000 back. That's a no-brainer. But it's not just get my $30,000 back. I'm usually making way more money than that. But what I've done is I've removed the objection so that all those people who would never buy the house the way it was before, I've created more buyers that would even choose that house in the first place. Right. Because if you have a completely outdated house or too many objections, someone just walks in and walks out and goes, I'll either buy something else or I'll wait for more inventory to come available until I can find something that meets my need. And so the thing is, you can't play the math game with your sellers of, well, if I do this, Kristie, exactly what am I going to get back? Even if I only get a smidge back from what you spend. Yeah. The message to the seller is, I will sell you because I'll have buyers that will want to buy you. There are only a small percentage of the people that will go and say, I'll take on the project. Just like the Nordstrom sweater. If you say, you know what? Oh, it's missing that button. The price has to get so low until you say, oh, I'll buy the sweater. I'll go to Joann Fabrics and buy new buttons. I'll come and try and remember home ec class from 11th grade and how to sew on the button or take it to my alterationist. There is a price in which you will buy that sweater and do all of that yourself. Just like there is a price in which a buyer will buy a house. And if a buyer says, I don't like this, or this, ooh, but at that price, I'll buy it. You never want to be the real estate agent who sells the house at that price. You have left so much money on the table for your seller. And if you're selling it at that price, you should buy it.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Okay, so you said we only have like 5 minutes left. So you said
okay. So number one, if it's the house of A, just do nothing. I've learned that hard lesson, and you've wasted a bunch of money. Now you've got house number 2, which is somewhere in the middle. Yep. And so when I go in and say, what is the low-hanging fruit? We walk the house room by room, and the cheapest thing that you can do is paint. Painting is the cheapest thing. It is inconvenient for owner-occupied people, but if you can get them on spring break or time something just right, or enroll them or have good painters who do a good job, you have to paint. And painting includes everything off the walls, and we don't put anything back up. And I always paint the cabinetry. If I have oak or that honey maple, I always paint the cabinets in the kitchen and at least the master bath if they're both that non-desirable wood species that people don't want. It's very important. So that's tough to enroll, especially people who have cherry cabinets that were super expensive upgrades, etc. Those are enrolling scripts that you have to do. For those houses, usually once you do painting and painting cabinetry, You don't have to spend the money on the other things like flooring. A lot of people just think flooring. Doctor up that flooring as best as you can. People, even I'm short, and people look at a certain level, you can get away with so many things on flooring, so don't waste your money. There's carpet dyeing where you can dye even like nail polish and even some bleach stains. You can stretch carpet, and if you have to throw a rug on top of something, if you have really, really bad tile or bad laminate or something, stage as best as you can. Don't spend your money there. And it's great when you walk in and a seller says, yeah, we know we need to replace the carpet. And you're like, hallelujah, that was $10,000. I get to take that $10,000 and use it where it matters, which is, what does the woman want? Okay.
Yeah.
So after we paint and we get to suck back in that money that the seller thought they were going to spend on flooring, then what we do is we get a budget to do all the pretty things. Okay. Look at your earrings, Dana. Think of earrings, necklaces, the jewelry. Your outfit looks completely different and your impression is completely different with those big gold hoops than if you had little diamond studs, okay? Yeah. So think of the jewelry of the house. That is your fixtures. Lighting, faucets, hardware, candles, all of that makes such a difference. And women love unique. Women love unique. So what we do is we have a Pinterest board, Indie Homes Pinterest board. We don't share it with our clients, but every time I find an amazing light or faucet that is an incredible price for how luxurious it is, we'll pin it in our board so that I can remember it later. And as we're transforming a home, we just go grab those pins and I send them to my clients. Please buy this light for the kitchen, this. I mean, I can do, 5, 6, 7 lights for usually $1,000 to $1,500. And
Yep.
Then we just bring a handyman in to hang them all up. So we definitely do that. Once you take everything off the walls, you paint and caulk, paint cabinetry, and change hardware, you think you've spent a lot, but you haven't. And the entire home feels differently.
Kristie, we're getting a ton of questions. Is there a number, and I want to answer them and we only have 2 minutes. Is there a third on the 3 houses, the total remodel, the somewhere in the middle, and then what?
Yeah, so the last one is you just walk into a great house and maybe they just have too much furniture, just a few low-hanging things. So I go room by room and I have them maybe take some things out, reorient, and then I usually will do some hardware things for them if they need it. But it's just very like, oh, this house is amazing, but still do very little because you want to add value and you want to remove any objections to make, in that case, a lot of times you're just making rooms feel bigger. If somebody has, colored towels, I'll go in and just say, hey, let's go to Target and get all white spa towels, all white bedding. I always do white bedding, white towels, white rugs. Everything now is going coastal, airy white. Really, really, really light paint, not agreeable gray anymore. It's light, airy, bright. That's what everybody wants.
So, okay, can I ask you a couple of quick questions? Because we've got several for you, and my phone is blowing up with questions too. Okay, so first question is, how do you determine? And this is probably a long answer, but if you could answer it kind of shortly for everybody, how do you determine what you pay for versus what they pay for? If they don't have it, then what does that look like? And what commission are you? Can you talk a little bit about commission and how you differentiate? Depending on how much.
So most of the time I'm in a clientele that my toughest part is enrolling people in the vision, because many people just think, oh my God, CNBC says it's a seller's market. And so it's very difficult to go in. And I think it's gonna be a lot easier now with the onslaught of inventory. But that was always my hardest thing is, yes, I can take your listing and do everything that Joe just said, because my competitors would go in and say, you don't have to do anything. Your house is great. Let's go live, even at a high price, even higher than me. And I don't want to say that that's buying the listing, but they truly just believed it would be fine. And if they didn't, we'll just drop the price until it sells. And I can't do business that way. I go in and think, oh my God, I can make you $30,000, $40,000 more money if we just do these little things. And I feel like that's my job, and we're generously compensated to do that. So you're right. There are a few times a year, maybe at most 10, that someone says, oh, we totally believe her message. Heck, we hate this kitchen too. Why would someone else want to buy it? But they really don't have the cash. So in those cases, and that's all, I have a whole YouTube 2-hour training that I did that's available on the Indie Homes YouTube channel to watch the whole thing.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so we can send that to everybody. So it's just the Indie Homes YouTube channel?
Yes, and we have a 2-hour training on exactly how to do it, what are the documents, but we will pay for it, and then we get paid on the HUD at closing as a little loan that we do with our clients. And right now, we are not charging for that service. We do keep a lot of money in our operating account, and I feel that we more than make up for, not that we're making a lot, I mean, what are the interest rates now anyway, but I mean, just the amount of money that we make in how we're increasing home prices for our sellers. I add up all the home transformations that we do, that pays the salary of our home transformation manager, who manages a lot of this work for our people, because we do help them manage it because it is overwhelming for people. And then a lot of things we buy in bulk. So we buy like handles in boxes of 100 on Amazon, like really nice ones that are almost like M-Tech quality. You know, I'm in luxury, so I can't buy like those cheapy hollow. And I buy them. I mean, you would spend $12 for these at Lowe's, and we buy them for $3.50. We just round up to $4 to make it easy. We sell them back to our clients, but then I can count exactly how many they need. So we go and count all the cabinets. We drop them off. Whoever the painter is who paints the cabinets, he putties the holes if they just had little cheap knobs. And then we'll put these really, really nice pulls on that are chrome. And, you know, so we have little hacks like that. We buy many things that I'll find like, oh my gosh, Costco's running like my favorite fan or light, like way on sale, and Costco prices are already, my husband's like, oh my God, did you bring 10 fans home? And I was like, yeah, I would have bought 20, but it was a maximum of 10.
I love it.
And then we just write up with Sharpies like what we paid for them with tax, so that we always know what our cost is. Just that stuff adds value. I mean, we don't always do that, but I'll find like a crazy bargain on something and think, oh, this is the most amazing light ever, and I could use this in so many different price points of homes.
Yeah.
But I always do unique. I never buy things that you can just get at Home Depot typically. I go to Lighting Plus or these fancy, unique lighting places. Build.com is a great website because that's Ferguson. That's Ferguson's online, and they have all the fancy brands. And Discount Bandit is a wonderful website. They are a broker, and you can find a light somewhere that you love, and then always go to Discount Bandit and see how much you can get from them. They're a broker, so they take your order and then they find a lighting or hardware vendor that will fill the order that they took for the price that they promised you.
Yeah. Okay. We are like 5 minutes over, Kristie, and this has been so good. See, I knew we could talk to these people for hours. Okay. So we have a bunch of questions that we did not get.
I'll go on the chat and I'll answer some. Okay.
Yes, please go on the chat and answer some. That would be awesome. Thank you so much, Kristie. You're just great.
Yes.
I'm getting
we're Indie Homes on Instagram. Indie Homes is our website with all of our social and our YouTube channels there.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristie, so much.